getting to cast this yet in Brazil. So very excited to get really stuck in and see what W7M can do on their attack. You know, like we were touching on the desk, W7M looked a lot better, but also Lo7M was not punishing them anywhere near as much as they should have been.
I think punishing is going to be the main thing here. Lo7M need to play a bit of El Clasico border again, going for these aggressive pushes. You know, again, still it's border. CCTV control, the main crux here. East control, the main crux here. Consider the map. You split it in half, right down the middle, like a cake. Boop, and then you split it into that two half, the CCTV, all the way to East Stairs. And then at the top, you have obviously Easter Armory. But it's these two main sections. You have to get one of that first section's entirety control in order to then set up for any kind of execute you want to go for. Because even if you're taking office, if you haven't cleared out things like East, if you haven't cleared out CCTV, the flank that can come through is very hot and fast. So again, really for W7M, they will have less opportunities that they did in Theme Park, to be honest, Novi, where they can just be like, okay, we'll just jump in and go for it. They have to be really mindful about clearing that roam presence from Lo7M.
And Lo7M, same bans as Theme Park, Mirror and the Dokkaebi. Don't want to give those towards W7M. W7M, Valkyrie again, but the Nook. So an operator that Lo7M was trying to use and had some success in some of the rounds, leveraging, and especially on border with how sort of compact the site, the map is. But like, it reminds me, because of the square nature and how everything's sort of clustered and there's this sort of ring around it, especially on that top floor. Reminds me quite a lot of Coastline, but sort of internally. And so on that Nook, if you get a free opening and you can wiggle your way into the actual building, very quickly you can cover a lot of ground and start applying pressure onto the defense, and without them knowing. So makes sense to try and remove that off, and especially if W7M isn't themselves going to bring it. But that Gara hook on the Amaru, we like these exciting, these fast plays. What has W7M got in store for us?
We've also got the gridlock, of course. Those track stingers can be really, really useful just for holding these rotates. Again, East Stairs being a massive one. You know, most teams will try and go for that cheeky rotate. To see Dash potentially think about reinforcing that double, but they're going to leave it open, and that's exactly why, Novi. It's so they can go for these rotations if they need to, you know, take East from the bottom upwards as soon as you know they're gaining that control on that first quarter of the map.
Yeah, lots of options for W7M. Where on earth are they going to go? Lo7M already getting a bit aggressive. We said maybe it was the balcony that was going to see the aggression. No, make it the main entrance. Even underneath. So KZ is aware that there is the potential of a cheeky opponent, but Dash doesn't want to get caught out either on that ground floor. Is going to back off, and that allows a bit of time for W7M to get a move on, get CCTV control, and start going from there.
And again, the keeper barriers being utilized in CCTV is such a nice thing to see. Again, Azami being brought into the game has been so wonderful, but especially with Order, even though, yes, it is reworked, CCTV is still so impactful. If you're trying to go for that arm retake, you need to clear CCTV. A little bit of fence pressure come through. .Zero does get tagged up, tries to go for the Kool-Aid moment. Messes it up just slightly, but still escapes with his life. Oh, Lobin! Gorgeous shot there. Hertz falls down. The shotgun to the face. The things we love to see. Rise will fall, but not before both sides take casualties. JV, Dash will fall. Also, Novi.
All this pressure being applied on the ground floor. Lobin dancing around the main entrance, but it's ignoring the fact that KZ is currently on site on the Amaru. Oh no, he's backed out. So he's just removed out. So I think maybe the diffuser, no, it's in Nade's hands. So of course, Nade would have to get back in position. That has allowed Lo7M to rotate back round upstairs. You can see the very tagged up Lobin is back with his teammates, and that allows them to start setting up those crossfires. They know W7M is under that time pressure, and they need to start walking forward into those crossfires. And if they're certain on them, they can catch them by surprise.
Is though, unless they're going to use the secondary again, they do have the shotgun. KZ might use that grappling hook to get up. Yes, they will. The Candela's going in to give the... Oh my god, breathing room! .Zero though, no breathing room for you. You're going to take down KZ. Nade will trade it back onto Lobin though, but now Nade is left in a 1 versus 2. Again, only Smokes to deal with some of this pressure, maybe cut off some of these lines of sight. They're going to have to stick the plant here. This is risky business indeed, Novi.
Ooh, the bait and switch. Gets the read on the Azami, but it doesn't quite materialize. Maya wins that one out. That is nicely done by Los One. Gets their first round win. W7M. Mixed results. Very, very back and forth. And a bit of miscommunication, miscoordination towards the latter half of the round.
A little bit chaotic. I think, they had the right idea of trying to go a bit more El Clasico with it, trying to get that vent pressure, maybe get themselves a bit of an opening pick there. Again, just that entry point from the main lobby wasn't great. A really gorgeous shot coming through that just immediately removes that push entirely, especially when you consider, we can still go underneath, we can still get those up nades, but to be shut down with that and then you've got to deal with the player lurking around workshop still, very uncomfortable for W7M. Again, at that point, the kills came through, very little drones left to work with, very little intel. They had to go for a play. They had the supernova, so it's like you have to get up close and personal. I like the fact that they tried to go for, the up grapple into sight and try something there, but it was just immediately shut down.
And classic combination being brought by Los One. The Mute and the Mozzie. Of course, we've seen Solus sort of essentially take the role that Mozzie sometimes has, but with how poor W7M in the last portion of that round, in the last minute, there was no drones in the two attacking operator who's still alive in their pockets or on the map. Both were removed. The Los One identifying that as a weakness and really leaning into it, not only going, are we going to deny you information, but we're going to try and steal those drones for ourselves and help us out, because Los One also sometimes struggles on that front. EU1D is rumbling with the bassy tones that it does, but not going to ping any defenders as of late. W7M is trying to clear out CCTV. Lobin is going to have to back off. He's going to go into Fountain, and that gives CCTV control over to W7M very early on in the round.
Up nade doesn't account to anything, but at least it's going to start applying pressure. And Herds does have CCTV control under the belt now, so that's a good sign for W7M. They can start to work towards taking Armory and start to apply pressure here. Again, if you get Armory control, that's when all that verticality can start coming through. Filippo, they're the one that you want to start opening those floorboards up and trying to collect themselves a few little freebies. But for now, they really have to remove Rise from this position. Lurking around that half wall, very, very difficult indeed. Bit of util maybe to boot. Dash actually falls down though, Novi.
Yeah, kind of confused how that would materialize, but a great headshot onto Herds. That one's gonna hurt in the morning. He's gonna feel that one, but JV is responding with a great double kill himself, and that puts W7M in a very good position. But .0 keeping it within their grasp. Los One has to back off, start giving space to W7M. Those air jabs might prevent a late round rotation. You can see W7M lacking the information to really start understanding where Los One is. Grace, 3 drones alive, 2 for Felipox, and he's droning right now. Where are those Mute and Mozzies hiding?
This is it when you've got the player advantage. We've seen before that W7M will just go for the jugular, but do they have that information? Again, as you say, the counter intel setup that Los One have brought is certainly going to put a spanner in the works. And .0 on this angle. The pre-fires come through on both sides. Filippo does take a little bit of damage though, but that plant can start going down. .0 trying to deny it. I don't know if they are aware of the fact that the plant is being stuck here. That angle is going to be held from the front entrance. There we have it. JV can collect a freebie. Really nice angles there by W7M.
3 in the round for JV. Nicely done. But interestingly enough, the diffuser, I believe, was left in no man's land around around the main stairs. It meant Felipox had to take a big risk with the last 15 seconds to run across. And if Los One was able to find that frag, we could be witnessing a very different round just then. W7M getting graced by a essentially slight whiff on the Los One side. So W7M move to 1-1. They're looking comfortable. They're looking fresh. Los One going back to Oh no, changing things up. Instead, opting for the bathroom, the tellers as well. So, keeping W7M on their toes. Of course, not happy with how that one went. And bringing the Echo to boot. Is there going to be an IQ focus for W7M just to help out with that? It doesn't seem likely. And they're coming off the line as well, which was very good in the opening of the round to find those few kills.
I think that the IQ and the factor are being brought by W7M just to really enable them to get rid of some of this utility that perhaps they were having difficulty with last round. Again, the mute jammers, the Mozzie pests as well. You can get rid of it very, very quickly if you have that kind of arsenal behind you. However, this makes me worry a little bit more for .Zero's yokai drones. Again, how impactful yokais can be nowadays. We've seen various changes to how people want to play that in the last 6 to 9 months. And again, people are being a lot more flexible with it. We've seen how impactful it can be, again, denying the plant in this season in particular. And Candela going to bathroom already is quite fruity, actually, from the side of W7M. Decide to apply that pressure, maybe baiting Low Swan into thinking, okay, are they actually going for a direct execute again? Is it a theme park 2.0?
The W7M, they see an opening. Like you said, they'll go for the jugular. They will not hold back. Low Swan has been doing a good job of trying to dissuade that opening aggression. At least trading 1-for-1 in a lot of scenarios. Maya getting tagged out, shot down so early on. And then Dash getting ripped apart to boot, losing the HP. That is quite disastrous for Low Swan to lose such an important key player so early on in the round.
Be waiting for a freebie. Obrigada. Good stuff indeed. Rise will fall down. A 3 versus 5 now for W7M. And this is looking very strong indeed. Remember, they still have all this utility, Novi. They can really make something work here. The Banshees do give the indication that this collapse may start to come through at some point. So Dash is desperately trying to look for an entryway. Lobin takes a significant amount of damage as well. Again, loads of smokes, loads of soft destructibility to deal with this. KZ taking on Dash. Down comes through as Hertz falls down. KZ falls too, Novi. What is happening?
Lobin is just destroying them on their backline. .Zero approaches on the eastern stairs to try and cover his teammates' retreat back to the site. And Lobin is able to retreat, but without .Zero in tow. He falls down. Hatch is going to get blown, and this is a 4 versus 1. Despite Lobin's best efforts in holding that office position, he is no more. Philippox closes the round, and that's W7M taking the lead. They're leading the series. They're now leading map 2.
They are, but again, remember, let's not count our chickens before they've hatched, because this is still an uncomfortable kind of map for W7M to approach at times. It is their less favorable side when approaching border, but the fact that they're taking the lead now, that pressure has to start amounting onto Low Swan, because again, you know, W7M, if they get a really, really big round lead here going into that second half, they go to that more favorable, you know, at least statistically, side for them on that defense. It's about a 63% win rate for them on that defense, and that's where the pressure will start to amount to Lost One, especially because I imagine W7M, they will be taking those gunfights from the get-go. I am expecting they will do little dances out into the corridors to try and snag themselves a few little freebies. So if you're Low Swan right now, you need to keep this in your favor. You need to ideally now get 3 rounds in a row, end on a 4-2 split. That's their best chance of not getting 2-0'd here, to be honest, Novi.
It's going to be tricky. Low Swan now opting to bring the Vigil. For me, similar to the Kavira, an operator that once he dies, the gadget's gone, no longer in effect. So Dash is currently sitting on a big donut, a lot of pressure on the shoulders. But Grace, 0. I flipping love this operator. Not opting to bring the Heart Breach, but with the ARGS launchers, especially with the change, and then the Gon 6 as their sidearm. This is an operator which, to me, is like Capital, brings so much utility, but a variety of utility for lots of different situations. And especially for this site, especially for the Armory, this is such a good operator to bring.
Especially for border, because again, having the change where you now get 2 claymores, we see they've already been placed, but again, it's because of how frisky people can get around those balcony runouts. And even if they want to, you know, we just saw Dash get tagged up, because you can make a hole and run out of that reach downstairs. Lobin though, JV will fall down, so all that soft destructibility of that sledgehammer is now removed, and those all-important nades, Novi.
Yep, big loss, losing JV so early on. But this is why you pick the rest of this lineup in terms of operators. Brava has double the amount of drones as the standard person. You've still got frag grenades on the Iana. You've got the Argus launcher. You've got the Zofia. There is plenty of redundancies built into this W7M lineup. And now with the 4-on-4 man count, as the halfway point reaches us, Low Swan, they're taking stock of the situation. It's Maya to take the engagement towards KZ. Now, yes, they might have a lot of redundancies, but that still doesn't mean you can't lose everyone. Plenty of drones still alive for W7M, but without the time in their favor, they're going to have to start taking risks and taking quick decisions. Lobin is going to get tagged out there, quickly dispatched by 2 players, but Dash replies in kind onto Herds. Maya again onto Felipox, being a standout player that we watch, and it's all on Nade. Firing the Argus launcher in the last minute to get a bit of information, but it's 3 players still to find, and not a lot of time to do so.
And again, I like the fact that they were trying to get that information just so they could try and contest that player in CC. But of course, the default house cam was still up, so that would have been called out to the rest of Low Swan. And now they're just going to actually batten down the hatches. They're holding these crossfires. They're being like, you know what, we have the player advantage. We don't need to overpeak here. We can let Nade come to us and we can take his head clean off. If you're Nade, you're desperately trying to bait into these 1v1s right now. They are going to try and stick the plant though. Low Swan think it's a bait. Oh, there's one. There's a little collector. Again, Nade, 20 seconds and a dream. Can they make something work? Maybe they go for a little bit of a pre-fire here into the Capcan's face. But no, there we go. Rise will shut him down. And Low Swan bringing us back to even Stevens.
Okay, Low Swan, good job in sitting back, letting Nade walk into you and into those crossfires. But huge caveat to that, huge asterisk on that compliment, was the fact that they almost just completely messed it up. Nade was able to get that first, bring it to a 1 versus 2, and then Rise is on his own. Where's the other defender? Where's that crossfire setup? They opted for the rotation, but was that necessary? Because if Nade gets that kill, he can get the plant off for free, and you're in a 1 versus 1 with the time pressure on you as a defender trying to retake the site with no information on where the 0 is. Nade should win that all day. That is far too big of a risk that Low Swan is taking at this point in a series when they're already 1 map up and you're so close to being kicked out of playoffs and not going to the major.
And lots of vertical utility being brought to the table as they have sussed out it is indeed workshop. So we're going to see these repicks onto the buck, onto the sledge. Last time they kind of struggled a little bit to get the time under their belt. I would like to see them do things a little bit quicker this time. Again, a really strong hold, even on that half wall from Low Swan. They've really kind of put their heels into the sand, so to speak. And here we go. I was wondering how long it would take for the spawn peaks to start coming through. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite land on anyone for Lobin. But I love the fact that they're going to start getting a little bit friskier with it.
Yep, we saw Lobin gearing up on Theme Park to do the same. I believe got at least 1 opening kill from it. Doesn't materialize, but will keep W7M on their toes. Keep them dancing. Speaking of dancing, Herd's going to be dancing on Dash's grave at this point. Herd goes for another engagement, removes .0, decimates, destroys, complete and utter destruction from W7M towards Low Swan. And just like that, in the first minute of the round, Low Swan is at an utter loss. They are baffled right now with how much they've lost in that first minute.
Punishing the aggression there by Low Swan, desperate to get those opening kills under their belt. Maya has had to drop down into workshop, but look, Rise is still willing to hold on to this top floor. This could cause a little bit of a kerfuffle now for KZ. Filippo, there we go, takes down Maya. But Rise, the patient of a saint, and it pays off. They're going to drop down right into the open and willing arms of Filippo. Good stuff, W7M. They won their ones, despite, again, the aggression from Low Swan.
Either Rise knew about that hatch and was just going to drop in, or while moving towards the hatch to drop, saw the other player, went, oh, I want to take that engagement, and was completely surprised, right? Like, it looked like Rise had no idea, was like, I'm falling. But W7M, they're going to take that all day, almost a flawless round. Really, really good job by W7M. And now, once again, They're not only in the driver's seat of the series, they're in the driver's seat for this map as well. And Low Swan on a map that statistically in the region seems slightly defender-sided. They are starting to struggle. They look only confident on 1.5 sites. When it comes to their rotation, they're trying as many as possible, but it just doesn't seem to be sticking. W7M seem very, very good at punishing Low Swan where they overextend.
The castle utility being brought out again, just essentially cutting more pieces of this cake map into these quarters now. The double barricade on that long corridor, even again extending maybe a little bit more into CCTV. It's kind of segmenting the map even more, and that's going to again create a delay for W7M to have to go through.
Drawing those battle lines. Which W7M is going to go, okay, we're going to have to cross here. But if they can take it, well, Uno reverse. Any soft destruction angles that you've opened up, suddenly the attackers are going to start using them. Okay, Nade, we're going to pretend we didn't see that, mate. But it doesn't matter. He gets the second one in, slightly deep. Maybe not as deep as he would have wanted with both covering that complete soft destruction hole. But Maya gets the first onto Herds. The Candelas go out. The Nade seems dissuade from jumping on in. Doesn't seem safe and has blown that smoke. Does try and take the gunfight through the window. But it's Dash who is removed by KZ. KZ looking for the second. W7M very good at this quick 1-2 jab. They're really comfortable to take these 1v1s, these 1v2s. JV follows through into Lobin and Grace. Low Swan looking like they're losing another round in a row. W7M are heating up, applying the pressure.
Pressure certainly can be amounted now. A 4 versus 2. Granted, .0 does still have the Yokais in pocket. It's a case of getting to a safe position. Maybe this is a part where you try and hold off a little bit. You try and stay alive. Again, going for this massive extension now all the way into Passport. Very dangerous business indeed, especially when, again, look how much utility W7M still have in pocket to play with. They've got flashes, they've got loads of soft destructibility. JV, gorgeous shot down to .0, and again, Rise, 1 versus X. They know exactly where he is. He's going to get caught out of here, probably. The Sharks are hungry in there. We have it. JV will take him down.
Yep, W7M is hunting, and Low Swan is just prey for them. They are the predator. W7M looking very, very in control of this game, and now they're going to their preferred site. So not only were they dangerous on attack, they're even more dangerous on defense, Grace. And this could be really a very quick series. W7M really close to booking those flights to Copenhagen and Denmark.
I think this is the thing too, right? If you're Low Swan right now, you're like, oh goodness me, we lost our map pick. This is W7M's map pick. They've had a really strong attack, despite maybe it being less in their favor statistically. W7M. I wonder how many spawn peaks we'll see this time. Again, we did see at least one from Low Swan, but it is something that you do see quite frequently if they're given the opportunity to do so, especially with this map. It's again why, out of all the maps, I think, where you're getting the most bang for your buck for taking Claymores, it is going to be Border. Yes, again, they had changes to this map, but it's still the same old Border. It's still Spawn Peak City, and I'm really excited to see if Herds will go on a little bit of a tear here.
Yeah, W7M, they've got that buffer. Yes, it's only 2 rounds, but getting 4 on attack, at least in Brazil, very, very good position to be in. So you've got a bit of luxury here to take some high-risk plays. Like, why not? You could close this series out even more. You can rattle Low Swan just by going for the run-outs like that onto the balcony. You make Low Swan question every single window and door that they peek, and that pressure in this situation can make them crumble.
And the Argus coming in clutch. Let's get shot up by Nade though. At least that's going to give them the awareness. Okay, there's going to be a 0 brought here. We need to be mindful. We need to make sure we keep our ears out to see if any of that utility gets placed against us. So far, almost like the quiet before the storm. W7M, considering I thought they'd get pretty bolshy here, pretty aggressive, they're being very patient with it. They're not ego peeking. They're not going for anything too, risky here. They're playing it very sensibly indeed. They're even pulling back here as those drones start to come through from CCTV.
Why not? he can still play around 90 and rotate back in later into the round like he is doing now, just in case. Those Arcs is going out, but too obvious. All three have been shot out. I believe there's one more in pocket. Nutshell thrown by JV, who's having a stormer of a game. Currently on 10 kills. 5 KD, which is incredible. But Low Swan not able to get the information that they need. These are desperate up plays. You can... There we go. Finally, a bit of information to guide Dash, but already W7M rotate out, and KZ can just rotate around CCTV. There's the aggression. Finds the first one to Rise, and now he can dip, duck, dive his way out of the crossfire. The frag grenade gets thrown up into 90 at top of main stairs, but it doesn't find anything, and he gets away scot-free with that kill, Grace.
A lot of structure and a lot of confidence. We even have JV holding Sandwich just in case someone does decide to get up on vents. So that has forced .0 to go for a little bit of an alternative angle. Looks like Lobin is going to go up as well and try and go for that entryway, potentially into Archives. And that's a very dangerous angle to have to go against, especially, well, Nade actually holding the C4 for Office. This is where things certainly start to get a little bit frisky. The jumping through the window is Filippo aware. Hertz does get one to .0 there, though.
Yep. Hertz removes .0, but then the rest of the players jump on in. Lobin and Maya follow suit to the grave to join their teammates, and Dash is the last one, but he'll also be 6 feet under. W7M looking utterly dominant on their defensive side. This series, it looks like this is W7M. It's wrapped in a beautiful W7M themed wrapping paper, a nice bow tied, and a tag that says "Welcome to Denmark" on it.
I really love the fact that they were so patient. They weren't going for these, you know, aggressive pushes until maybe that mid round. That could have lured Lost One into a false sense of security. And then suddenly we see KZ go for that push in break and actually land essentially a freebie. Realistically, there was 2 players there. You should have been able to shut them down. Again, awkward moments there for Low Swan. Perhaps the pressure will start to amount now. They themselves are going to start taking that IQ out as well. They want to deal with some of this utility nice and early. And the main thing there was, I think they did want to get multiple dimensions of pressure here, but they were just cautious of the fact that W7M were willing to take these angles against them.
W7M more than willing to take those angles. I think, say just they're willing, they will take those angles, right? They are having a field day right now on that top floor. So willing to take the aggression and the engagement to Low Swan, and they are unable to match that in those 1v1s. They're unable to lock those players down. And when they eventually do, either too much time has been wasted, or they get traded in the process. And neither one of those is good for the attacking side. Low Swan need a miracle, really some kind of conversation, a tactical timeout, something just to get them in a position where they can calm themselves down, because they're very close to losing this series.
Certainly so. Warning fire coming out from .0 right now. Was a little bit of a quiet before the storm again. Low Swan just really mindful that they want to make sure that all of these areas are safe. W7M playing it again pretty passively from the get-go for now, at least. Safety angle being used on vents as well, just in case that sandwich pressure does come through again. Again, for Lobin, it's pretty sensible behavior. So again, Low Swan, they're really trying to be patient here. They're really trying to take their time with it.
And this is great from W7M. I praise them for that aggression to take those fights, but they're more than willing to switch things up and slow the pace down. And Low Swan, they don't want to overextend. They're scared to, but in response, they're losing time. They're bleeding that clock dry. But Maya with the first engagement, the second as well. Fantastic kill to kick us off. And he's inside. He's working his way into the small office. Able to find a third. Looking for the fourth. He knows there's another player on the other side of Armory, but Dash removes him. And that's a 5-1. Maya single-handedly is keeping Low Swan in this series.
Is this going to be a flawless though, Novi? That could certainly raise the spirits of Low Swan right now. There we go. Yes, indeed it is. Low Swan fight back with a lot of patience there. And then when they had the opportunity to go for the jugular, they just went for it.
Perfect round from Low Swan. And that came off of the back of Meyer, a player, you know, how did Jacob describe him? The tip of the spear. He's the one who goes in and makes that play and opens everything up. But once that happens, you can see Lo1 just reacts. Dash just sends it. And suddenly, they come alive. But you can't rely on that individual player every single round. It's just not sustainable. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. They've got plenty more rounds to have to overcome against W7M before they're even able to potentially push it to a third map.
The main thing here for W7M is it was like they were being really patient, and then as soon as that first kill came in, it was like something clicked for them, and then they just went hyper aggressive again. Maybe they just need to do things a little bit smarter, maybe go for these duo pinches. It gets difficult though when you are going to have someone just suddenly pop off at you like that. Lo1 though, again the pressure is still on, they still have that slight round lack behind them.
Lacking in rounds.
Lacking in rounds.
Lacking in rounds. Lo1. That is certainly the situation they're in. Selma Charger's going out. Start opening the wall up. Meyer's gonna look to create a crossfire on the other side as well. So they can start clearing out the east side of the map and work their way, the west side of the map, and start working their way forward to the eastern side. They tried a very direct assault beforehand and it didn't really work. When they've jumped in on the top floor, they're presuming it's not going to work on the bottom either. Now, how the Lo1 after this first minute, what they gained, and how can they push this further? They're not yet in the actual building. That's not the biggest issue. You know, we talked about it being similar to how Coastline would work. You can play around those windows, those doors, and get these long lines of sight. But with all that drone, that information, they've lost already so many drones. I'm just looking at their economy right now. What, 1, 2, 3, 4 remain? That's not very good at the halfway point.
Losing drones, but they have been able to clear a lot of utility, and they have been able to place air jabs just to give themselves an extra bit of protection. Well, there we go. .0 taking out Filippo now. The mute is yeeted and deleted from the server. But again, you really need to be careful about that drop down from CCTV right now if you're Lobin. Especially, swing around the corner there by JV. They're really trying to contest this gunfight. But there we have it. Lobin comes out on top. Sometimes you just end up with that bad UMP. KZ getting that trade foe onto Rise. Pretty neck and neck at the moment. W7M, they still have that timer in their favor. They can just kind of pull back a little bit now, go a little bit more passively maybe. They still have that upstairs control too. So again, the retake potential is massive. That's massive too. Hurts, beautiful shot. But .0's going to trade you out almost instantaneously. And where is the response? Nade, shotgun in hand, goes for the swing, gets one. There we have it. Meyer falls down. They're going for the second. They go for the drop shot, but there we have it. Dash collects himself a little freebie.
And KZ is left to recover. This round that is swept by W7M. Lo1 had the man advantage. W7M had the time, but now it is flipped even further. Oh, what a shot, but it doesn't matter. The diffuser's gone down. He knows exactly where .0 is. Still flashes in hand, and that gives a brief piece of respite for .0, who goes aggressive, and KZ destroys him in the 1 versus 1. W7M move on to series points.
The bailiff to the face. That is uncomfortable. That is uncomfortable. To be down and then receive a bailiff to the face. I'd be molding right now. Match point though, series point indeed, as you said perfectly, Novi. Again, a very, to be honest, scrappy round on both sides. Really relied on W7M having to have a little bit of a feel there. These players that were brought in that bathroom area by Nade, in that initial pick under the belt, the nice little shotgun too. Really came down to the nail there. Could have been dangerous.
I love Nade's reaction in the player cam right there, because he gets the first shotgun kill by popping up over the shower wall, and then he rotates around to the other side, and he was like frustrated at himself because he knew that essentially that was a huge misplay by Lo1. That was a quick separate, 3 basically separate 1 versus 1s in a row. He got the first, went to try and challenge the second one, and he's like, it would have been such a good highlight play, right? Like, that's going straight on Twitter if that works out. But unfortunately, wasn't for him. However, very, very well done by KZ to bring that home. And now W7M, the invitational finalist 5 weeks ago, had the roster change, topped their group, but then suffered in playoffs. Looked like maybe they might not make it to the next major event, the next international event. Will the invitational curse strike? Grace, it doesn't seem to be true. The curse may be about to be broken.
You have to remember that W7M, you know, they are a really good team. They've shown up for those massive events, and also the fact that they were first in their group, right? Lo1 were in a very uncomfortable group, granted. They had FaZe and Liquid with them. But W7M, they were in that #1 place. They came into this playoffs. Yes, they had maybe a bit of a rough time the other day, but they are still the W7M that we know and love. And they are a formidable force to be reckoned with, especially when it comes to these timed aggressive plays that they can make.
Speaking of aggressive plays, Lo1 opening kill onto Nade. And we've seen Lo1 struggle sometimes to convert, but that will give them a sigh of relief just then to know that early on they've got that kill. Those up nades, KZ is about to get blown sky high by Dash. And there's another one to add to the tally. Lobin is chiming in. He wants a bit of the pie. And W7M looking like maybe this isn't the easy road to the victory that they were expecting. It's a 5-1. Lo1 suddenly turning up the heat and looking for another flawless round, Grace.
Absolutely. So a lot of time again there we have it. The flawless comes through. .0 can just go for the swing around the corner. Very uncomfortable there for the side of W7M. I love the fact that those ones still have the stamina to be able to play a round like that though, Novi, right? You know, they weren't being like, okay, we'll just lie over and die now. They were like, no, we can get these rounds under our belt. Let's just go very structured. Let's let them make these mistakes. Let them come to us.
Yep. But Lo1 is running out of opportunities. 2 rounds down between them and overtime. Never mind the third map of Villa. Doesn't even matter at that point. They've just got to focus on what's in front of them 1 round at a time. W7M, they've got this armory on lock. They looked beyond confident on this site setup. And Lo1 struggled, certainly. Went very aggressive in the early portions of the round. W7M punished them in kind. KZ especially around that CCTV on Azami was instrumental in their success, but has changed to the Solus. So maybe not the same setup we saw before.
Ooh, Herd's taking a little bit of damage already. And this one just getting that first initial moments of information, work out what they're going up against still. What their entry points are going to be as well. So they are going to try and pressurize the CCTV side. Again, I think it's fair enough. The Claymore's going out. Taylor's orders time. Pretty standard and steady approach, but this really worked for Lo1 last time, you know, taking it slow and steady, letting W7M make these mistakes, but are W7M going to bring the thunder towards them? For now, they're playing this very patiently. Look at this. They are just waiting. So again, it's just a massive waiting game. The risk with this, of course, is if KZ doesn't try and get these opening picks under the belt, or indeed get them under their belt in general, that can fall apart very quickly if you are going to go for something a little bit more passive here. Really, the main crux point right now, it is that CCTV, and it is that office hold. We see Filippo. Oh, the run out gets himself. No, he doesn't, because the Claymore is there. A Taylor's order time. Herds with the run out too to collect that pick onto .0. Holy moly.
Holy moly indeed. It's a 1-for-1 trade. W7M look like they're about to catch Lo1 off guard, but it's not the case. The Claymore's doing the work, and that allows Lo1 East position in which they can still fight for this series. Still a lot of time still on the clock, Grace, and they've got a lot of ground to cover. KZ hasn't been displaced. This is looking difficult for Lo1.
Especially given that they've lost all those Selmas now too. Again, no secondary hard breaches in pocket. They're going to have to go for these very awkward choke points, right? They're going to have to either go through Archive's door, or they're going to have to go maybe metal. Again, maybe someone rotates below, but what nades do you have? None. You do have the skeleton key. There we have it, though. Dash is going to try and push up those metal stairs. Herds will fall down. That's at least the Oryx dealt with. KZ is looking for the trade, but there we have it. Dash has managed to get themselves all the way out of there.
And because the default cam in 90 hasn't been blown, it allows KZ the freedom to rotate round. Read like a book. Dash absolutely annihilated by KZ. And with 30 seconds, I don't think they were expecting that for Lo1. They weren't expecting to lose Dash so goddamn quickly, but Lobin is trying to keep them within. It just comes down to Rise in a 1 versus 2, playing for that spot in the Copenhagen Major. Make that a 1 versus 1. Rise is looking to close this out and push them even further, but no, JV brings it home for W7M. Your invitational finalists have made it to the Copenhagen Major.
Oh, the timing in that, again, just because they didn't go for the peak, you walk further and further into Armory thinking, okay, maybe they're holding it, you know, the other side of the main wall there. They weren't. They were hidden like a rat behind that wall. And I'm completely here for that. W7M putting their feet down and saying, we are still W7M. Yes, it's been a little bit rough for us, but we were still, again,